Good morning, everyone. Leanne Lely Mazaret here on another gorgeous morning in Florida. And today's topic is recreating negativity in your life and how to stop doing that. And the reason that I chose this topic is because it's a continual challenge for me and for anyone who's walking through this world to not let negative thinking, negative situations, external events become our internal reality, such that we think about them and ruminate on them and thereby create more of that in our lives. And let me give you a couple examples. I'm reminded, I don't know if any of you are Game of Thrones fans, but I'm reminded of young Arya Stark, who was witness to some atrocities committed against her family when people were trying to overthrow the government, the kingdom, and take it for themselves. And so she had this list of people that she wanted revenge on. And every night before she went to sleep, she would go through this list in her head over and over and over again of all the people that she wanted revenge on. And eventually it came to pass because she was so single-mindedly focused on making sure that all these people, quote unquote, paid for what they did to her and her family. And I understand the feeling of revenge. It can be very powerful when you have sustained very significant losses at the hands of other people, usurpers and thieves and murderers. And the trouble is that that became Arya's mission, her reason to be in life. And she just went through her life kind of floating around with this hatred inside of her, this massive hatred. And as a little kid, that really formed who she was. She learned how to fight, and she learned to, survive, which I think is a basic instinct that most of us would have to resort to, if we were placed in a survival situation as a young child or even as an adult. But what I'm talking about here is for the rest of us who aren't, trying to revenge our family's murders, or there's nothing, we haven't been deposed or lost our homes or all of our fortunes at the hands of usurpers. A lot of times what we suffer is just minor irritations or other things that are consequences of our own decisions. And instead of either taking responsibility for those decisions and then either changing the way we go forward in our lives so that we don't continue to have those things happen by virtue of making new decisions, that's one option for taking responsibility for the quality of our lives. But then another thing is just in our perception, because in many cases there are things that are beyond our control, such as the choices of other people. And when other people make choices that affect our lives, we can only choose how we respond to that fact or that action or that occurrence. And if we spend our lives like Arya Stark, ruminating over the wrongs and injustices that have been done to us, then we create a life filled with regret or revenge or anger or disappointment or poor me mentality. And then we call all our friends over to ruminate with us and commiserate with us and add more energy to that negative thing that happened. And we all go, oh, wow, that's horrible. Or, oh my gosh, you're right, that's just so terrible. And I'm not saying that it isn't terrible and it isn't painful and it isn't hurtful and it isn't unjust. I'm just saying that by focusing on it, you're just creating more of the same and attracting more of that to your life. Now, let me give you an example from yesterday of something that happened to me personally. So I started out my day all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm all happy because, my escrow is supposed to close on a couple of days, like Friday. Today's Wednesday. Yesterday was Tuesday. And so I'm all happy, because it's the first of 3 houses that I have on the market. And I've been waiting to sell them for some time. And it looks great, so I'm in a great mood. And the second house that I'm working on just needs a few things finished up, and the guys have been dragging out the job. And so I'm going over there to work with them and figure out if they're done yet and give them my punch list. But as I'm waiting for them to arrive, and they don't arrive, and they don't arrive, and they don't arrive, I was starting to get a little ticked off and feeling like my time was wasted, and they were already late, several days anyway, and here they are late again. I was feeling very disrespected as a client. But instead of focusing on that, you know, because I can't make other people treat me with respect. I can't, I can demand it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get it. And I can expect it, but that I have a better chance of getting it. But my point was, while I was there waiting, instead of just being ticked off, I looked around the house and I admired all the other work that was already done and the other workers that I was working with who do things as they say they will. I looked at the little plants that I'd planted on the side of the house that were just free. They were little offshoots in a bucket that my mom had given me, and they had doubled in size. And so I was marveling at the, you know, the beauty of nature and its ability to fix things and regrow things, and replenish things, and recycle. So I was thinking about those things, and my day got better. And I just took off and said, all right, I'll just come back when they actually, I said, call the people. I said, just call me when you arrive, and then I'll come back over, because I got a day here. I've got other things to do. You know, I don't live in this house. So then hours went by, and I never heard from him. And then I finally get a call back, and it's now like 5 o'clock at night, and he's, you know, just arrived. And then that ticks me off just thinking about it. But I gave myself 17 seconds to get out of that funk. And luckily, I was clear-headed enough, because I think if I'd stayed in that funk, I probably would have turned onto the 95 to go down to meet him. And the 95 was a parking lot where I was, one exit up, down to the next one where I had to get off. There was a huge accident, and traffic was blocked in both directions. And luckily, I was clear-headed and didn't have that negative energy going on, because that would have just totally ruined my day even further. It could have ruined my day even further. But I went around a different way. I was able to get to the house. This guy was continuing to be a challenge for me, you know, and continuing to threaten to stress me out. So I got a lot of practice yesterday, and I spent a lot of time where 17 seconds was not enough time for me to get out of that mood. And the point I'm making is that, you know, when I fell into that mood, sometimes things got a little bit worse, you know, because then I opened up an email, and then it was like, oh, your escrow's delayed. I'm like, oh. And then I was tempted to just go down that road and be disappointed, be ticked off, be angry, get self-righteous, start making demands, start saying, hey, you know, you've had all month to figure this escrow out, rah, rah, rah. And what would that accomplish? You know, people don't jump just because I say so. And the more that I rant and rave, sometimes all I'm doing is upsetting myself. Just like Arya Stark. I'm counting off all the things in my head that are an injustice to me. And you probably do that too. We are conditioned to whine and complain about the stuff that feels unfair to us. And I think it's important to pay attention to how we feel. And I think it's important to realize that an injustice has been done. And I think it's also important to learn from that by making sure your expectations are clear. But even if you do all of that, you still can't guarantee that the outcome will be the way you want it to be. The best you can do is protect your own internal serenity while things are falling apart around you. And frankly, that's the fastest way to stop the cycle of negativity from spinning forward into your life as a mantra, as a revenge mechanism, as a way to feel continually put out, continually angry, continually pissed off, you know, disappointed, because you just create more of that. Now, if you already know this and you've already been applying these things in your life, well, good on you, because it's a challenge, and sometimes it's a daily challenge. And that's all we can do, is just take it situation by situation, moment by moment. But I don't let this go on for weeks and weeks, and I don't go to sleep at night thinking about it. And if I wake up with it in the morning, I've got 17 seconds to get rid of it. And that's why I'm talking to you about it. Because prior to some change of heart, I used to just wallow in it. And even though I felt strong and independent and took charge of my life, I was still very angry and bitter about stuff that happened in the past a long time ago that I was carrying forward with me. Whether it was abandonment by my parents, my father, you know, my mother, whatever it was that kept coming forward with me. Whatever it is for you, don't drag it forward with you, because it's your future and it's your now. And it's most important that your now is a happy place, so that you can create more happy and more fulfilling things will come to you. All right, Lily out.